9:42 p.m. Growing up in Tanap, I spent a lot of time with my Baba Vera and Deda Zdravko. Mum and Dad were just too busy at the town bakery and cafe to look after me, so during the day I'd follow Deda through his fruit orchards, or watch him in the shed, sorting trays for pickup, bottling jam, checking the dryers, or arguing with the wholesalers and wine producers. In the evenings, I'd be in the kitchen with Baba, who would typically be making dinner for the entire family, including my parents. Dad would have been up since 3:30 a.m. in order to start baking. Mum would have been up since 5 a.m. in order to manage the storefront. Of course, by late afternoon, they'd turn up to Baba's house exhausted and hungry. Frank would be there too, at least while he was of school age, and otherwise whenever he was down for a visit during university vacations. Everyone would be waiting for some of Baba's hearty comfort food. Tonight I figured that Justine looked like she needed comfort food, so I made one of Baba Vera's favorite dishes, moussaka, spelt with a U, or as the Greeks like to call it, moussaka, spelt with an OU. The Balkan version is slightly different. My Baba used to use eggplant just as the Greeks do. I don't because, as you might recall, I'm allergic to it, so I tend to substitute zucchini, which is understandable given my fondness for Italian food. In case you aren't allergic to eggplant, I've included it as an option in the recipe below, including Baba Vera's eggplant salt preparation. Recipe: Balkan moussaka. Ingredients: serve 6. 450 grams beef mince. 7 to 8 medium potatoes peeled. 1 large eggplant, prepared as below. I use zucchini because I'm allergic to eggplant. 2 onions, finely chopped. Tomato paste, 2 sachets. 2 cups of milk. 3 eggs. Half a cup of beef stock. 1 cup of mozzarella cheese. Preparing the eggplant. If you're using eggplant, you have to peel it first. Slice into long, thin strips, salt it on both sides, then leave it wrapped in absorbent kitchen paper for at least an hour. This removes bitterness from the eggplant. Other: oil, I use grapeseed, salt and pepper, fresh thyme, oregano, a few bay leaves. Preparation: steam the potatoes for 4 minutes to lessen the cooking time, then slice them medium thin. Fry the onions in oil at high temperature until the onion starts to brown. Remove the onions and brown the mince. Add the onions and sachets of tomato paste, some thyme, oregano, and a couple of bay leaves, and salt and pepper to taste. Stir until it forms a thick sauce. Add some stock if necessary. Put half of the potato slices on the bottom of a rectangular glass baking tray in a layer approximately 2 to 3 slices deep. Then add a layer of eggplant or zucchini. Next, put the mince over the top. Now add a layer comprising the remaining potatoes. Brush the top potato layer with oil. Finally, pour any remaining stock over the moussaka. Preheat the oven to 250 degrees, then place the baking tray inside for 30 minutes. Beat the eggs and milk until well mixed, adding salt and pepper to taste. Remove the baking tray from the oven and pour the egg and milk mixture over the top. Then sprinkle it with the mozzarella cheese. Return it into the oven for 20 minutes or until the top turns golden brown. Zara and Silvio did as they had promised and took Justine home to pack. I got Silvio to drive Justine's car home. I didn't want Ian passing by and realizing she was with me. Once they all got back, I asked the boys to stay for dinner. I had plenty of moussaka anyway. I was expecting to have about half left over for the next day, but all I have now is a single slice, which I just put into a plastic container and stored in the fridge. Now that the others have gone, I'm stacking the dishwasher. Justine is watching me from the lounge room, sitting on the couch with her knees drawn up to her chest and her arms wrapped around them protectively. Her body language is currently speaking more than she is. She breaks the silence very suddenly, as she has been wont to do, by saying, "You're doing it again." "What am I doing?" The tea towel on the shoulder thing, she points. Oh, that. It's a habit, I'm afraid. Kylie used to scold me for it. Said it was unhygienic or something. Oh, that's utter rubbish. Anyway, I'm not scolding you. I was just noticing. To be honest, I find it endearing. She releases the hold on her knees, long enough to grab her wine glass and take a sip. Oh, well, in that case, I'm glad. Can you give me a bit more detail on what happened in there today? I mean, I get that you erased D1, overwrote him, as you put it, but I'm not sure I understand how. Ah. I hang the tea towel back on the oven door, grab my own glass of wine, and join Justine in the lounge, sitting opposite her. It works like this. Whenever you print something in the booth, it erases whatever's in there. What I did was I basically printed another copy of the same wedding ring to the Perth studio. Because I did that while D1 was in the booth, he was overwritten. I don't even have a copy of his profile to delete. To find an earlier profile of D1, you'd have to go right back to the moment we diverged. In other words, the moment I first printed myself to Melbourne. As you can see, that profile would be just as much mine as it would be D1's. Judging by what I saw, you've evolved a lot in that time. As had D1, except he'd evolved in the wrong direction, poor chap. I think erasing him was an act of mercy. What about the wedging of the door? What was that all about? There's a protection built into the software. Normally you can't print to the booth if the door is open. Frank used his administrator access earlier today to change some code on D1's computer. Basically, he disabled the protection, so all I had to do was make sure I caught D1 in the room at the right time, then print. Sounds like it was a bit risky. It was, but Frank had managed to turn on the studio microphone, which has a very wide range and captures everything, so I could hear where D1 was. Approximately, anyway. Also, I timed everything to the last second. At this, she just nods. We sit in silence for a while, and I finally say, I have an early start tomorrow. I have some business to do. Will you be okay here on your own? Well, you say that the locks have been changed. Besides, Ian doesn't seem to know I'm even here. But you won't be away too long, will you? No, 4 hours or so at most. Anyway, I'm starting really early. I'll be off at 9 a.m., I think. I should be back just after lunch. Where are you going? Perth. To give Kylie back her ring? Well, I wasn't going to bother. But maybe that would be quite a nice touch. It was D1's last wish, after all. So what else were you going to do? It's all preparation for Plan 2. In other words, getting rid of Ian McRae. Are you going to give him the same treatment as you gave D1? No, sadly. If only it were that easy. Assuming we could lure him to the booth. And that's not impossible. Erasing him without a trace would probably cause a great deal of trouble for us all. Why? Well, he'd become a missing person. Yet people would know he'd visited this house. From almost everyone at McMahon's and Billings, right through to people like Mrs. Chu. They'd know he'd threatened me. Inevitably, the police would come round to investigate. Sooner or later, they'd find the studio. They might even work out what Frank's machines can do. Yes, but you said Frank could decommission the machines here. Assuming he did that on time, it still leaves the fact that I'd be a suspect. If I ran away to Brazil, I'd be wanted, at least for questioning, for the rest of my life. When you're playing the sort of game Frank and I are playing, that's the last thing you want to happen. But you could hang around, answer questions. They'd never be able to pin anything on you. Except there'd be a lot of other stuff I'd have to answer for. Like how I managed to be in Kuala Lumpur and Melbourne at precisely the same time, doing a full day's work for 2 different law firms. You sure stuffed things up with your original plan, didn't you? I laugh and reply, why do you think Frank was so mad at me? Luckily, he's very forgiving. And now that I get it, I have to agree with him. There is no other way. And the way is? I look at my watch. I don't mean to fob you off. I will tell you. But the plan is very complex, and a lot depends on what I can achieve tomorrow and the next day. If I can't manage it, the whole plan will have to change drastically. We'll speak more about it when I get back tomorrow afternoon, I promise. Justine's lip curls up on one side, but she says nothing. Trust us. Frank and I have matters in hand. Right now, you need to get some more rest. Okay, but I'm only letting you get away with this mystery crap because my head's still trying to process what I've already seen. And I'm emotionally overloaded. As she says this, I see her lips start to tremble, and for the first time since the events of the previous day, tears welling in her eyes. The walls of the dam seem like they're about to crack. I'm going to do whatever it takes to look after you. You know that, don't you? I say quietly. I believe that. She wipes under one eye with a finger. But at the end of it all, you're going away. I can't see I have an option. You know I can't join you. I mean, apart from the fact that we've really only just met. We barely know each other. My life, Tsar, it's all here. She wipes at her cheeks with both hands. I'm not entirely sure what's triggered the tears, but I'm not fool enough to think it's about me going away. Whatever it was, this is good. Emotions can't be bottled up. When they are, they just do damage. D1 provided clear evidence of that. Eventually I say, that's why Plan 2 isn't about me. It's about leaving something behind for you. And what would that be? The chance to dictate your own destiny. 11:47 p.m. I'm fast asleep dreaming. Something about D1 having not been erased, and finding him in the kitchen talking to Justine. I'm startled out of my dream and open my eyes. Then I feel movement. Justine has crawled into my bed and is lying close, but with her back turned to me. I look over and see that she's in a fetal position and has the covers pulled up to her chin. I resolve not to move a muscle.